What if the face of your franchise, the player who just delivered on the biggest stage, isn't as safe as you thought? What if the Boston Celtics are quietly preparing to do the unthinkable? That's the chilling implication from Bill Simmons' latest podcast appearance, one that has sent shockwaves through NBA circles and ignited a firestorm of speculation. According to Simmons, Jaylen Brown, fresh off being named both Eastern Conference Finals MVP and NBA Finals MVP just one season ago, is not the sacred cow many fans assume he is. As much as I hate it, and I hope they don't trade him, I don't. Think he's untouchable with the situation that team's in right now, Simmons admitted. Wait, what situation? This isn't a team on the brink of collapse. The Celtics just lifted banner 18, but behind that championship veneer lies a looming financial nightmare, and Simmons believes it's already shaping the front office's hand. Boston is staring down a brutal luxury tax bill, and the second apron, penalties are unforgiving. Something has to give. And the cold truth? Jaylen Brown might be the only piece valuable enough to unlock the kind of flexibility Boston now desperately needs. That's not just a financial concern, it's philosophical. Simmons floated an eerily plausible scenario. Could somebody overwhelm them with a Jaylen offer? Especially if Giannis doesn't get traded, he asked. Here's the twist. If Giannis stays in Milwaukee, Jaylen becomes the next best superstar potentially on the market. And that opens the door for teams like San Antonio, stocked with picks, young talent, and a generational big man in Victor Wembanyama, to come calling. Can the Celtics resist the temptation of future-proofing their roster? Or will they cling to the core that finally broke through? The Spurs could put together a king's ransom, several picks, high upside prospects, salary relief, and maybe the pitch that no GM wants to hear, but every ambitious one listens to. You're not getting anything like this again. Could Brad Stevens actually say no? Here's where the real dilemma sets in. Simmons points out the Celtics' options. Trade Drew Holiday, who's 34, and signed a 4-year, 135 letters deal. Or Kristaps Porzingis, a 29-year-old injury risk with only 1 year left on his contract. But both carry red flags that scare away GMs. Boston reportedly wants a first-rounder for Holiday, but in today's league, that's optimistic at best. And that's where Jaylen becomes the high-value currency in a market starved for star power. His playoff heroics were undeniable, but for the second time in 3 years, he's being viewed as the expendable piece. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Simmons dropped a darker hypothetical that hasn't gained enough traction. What if Tatum doesn't play next season? Whether due to injury, personal choice, or load management. Imagine a Celtics reset, where Tatum sits and everything else changes. I mean, like multiple trades, Simmons said. Like they just say, fuck it, Tatum's not playing next year. We're going to reset everything. It's not a prediction, but it is a plausible strategy, and one that starts with Brown. Imagine this: Kevin Durant in Celtics green, stepping onto the TD Garden floor, not as an enemy, not as a rival, but as the latest chess piece in Boston's quest to build a dynasty. Sounds outrageous, right? That's exactly why you should pay attention. Because while the headlines insist it can't happen, and insiders keep repeating second apron, there's a growing sense behind closed doors that something far more radical is brewing. The Celtics could be plotting one of the most explosive trades in recent NBA memory, and all signs point to a plan that would make most fans and rival GMs question everything they thought they knew about Brad Stevens' front office. But why Durant? And why now? Let's peel back the layers. Kevin Durant isn't just on the decline, he's trapped. Phoenix mortgaged everything to create a super team that fizzled out in 2 straight playoff disasters. Despite boasting 3 offensive stars, Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal, they couldn't even make it out of the first round this year, and next season, they're set to be deep into the second apron for the 3rd consecutive year. That means no mid-level exception, no buyouts, no flexibility, no salvation. The Suns have to blow it up, and Durant is their most valuable path out of financial ruin. What no one is saying out loud. Phoenix is willing to move KD, not because they want to, but because they're out of options. And the Celtics, they might be the only team desperate and clever enough to make it work. Dwayne Rankin from the Arizona Republic was blunt. "I just can't see it." He cited the obvious problem. Both teams are over the second apron, and new CBA rules limit salary aggregation for those teams. But here's where the narrative gets lazy. What if Boston doesn't need to aggregate? What if, instead, they clear out salary before pulling the trigger on Durant, by moving multiple players like Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday, or even Jaylen Brown in separate deals? Remember, Durant's contract is massive, $54.7 million next season, but the Celtics could construct a sequence of trades that effectively step down into a Durant deal. Hard? Absolutely. Unprecedented? No. Impossible? Not even close. Here's what no one is talking about. Durant has unfinished business, not just in Phoenix, but with his entire legacy. At 35, he's entering the twilight of his career. He's been a hired gun in Brooklyn and Phoenix, but neither stint added to his reputation. In fact, they may have damaged it. He hasn't sniffed a finals since leaving Golden State. The next ring he wins needs to be earned, not borrowed. And where better to earn it than Boston, the NBA's most storied franchise, fresh off a championship with a young superstar in Jason Tatum and the infrastructure Durant never had in Brooklyn? He doesn't need to carry the team. He just needs to finish the job. What if I told you the Mavericks, a team desperate for a playmaker, are quietly circling Drew Holiday? And what if that trade could completely reshape both franchises, shaking up the NBA landscape in ways no one is prepared for? At first glance, it sounds like just another mid-level trade rumor, but the truth is far more explosive and complex. Forget the obvious injury to Kyrie Irving or Luka Doncic's departure. The Mavericks' real problem isn't just missing star power. It's a structural imbalance in their roster that could cripple their championship hopes. They have a glut of big men: Anthony Davis, Derek Lively II, PJ Washington, and the likely rookie Cooper Flagg filling the paint. But on the perimeter, there's almost no one capable of running the offense efficiently. Spencer Dinwiddie is fading fast. Jaden Hardy still looks unprepared for the spotlight. And even if Kyrie returns in January, relying on him alone is a gamble. This leaves the Mavericks desperately craving a veteran point guard who can not only distribute but also control the pace. And Drew Holiday fits that bill perfectly. Here's a piece of history few are talking about. Holiday and Davis share nearly 7 years of chemistry from their time in New Orleans, dating back to 2013-2019. That connection could translate instantly into Dallas, providing the Mavs with a level of cohesion they've lacked since Luka left. Would this reunion be just nostalgia, or the spark Dallas needs to flip the switch and finally contend again? Mavericks send Daniel Gafford, Klay Thompson, Olivier Maxence, Prosper Celtics send Drew Holiday, lottery-protected, 2027 first-round pick. This isn't some fantasy deal. Cap rules and trade machines confirm it works perfectly under the NBA's salary constraints. The Mavs get a seasoned, playoff-tested point guard with defensive prowess and clutch experience. The Celtics shed a significant contract and add depth, plus a future pick. Win-win, almost. Trading away Gafford and Thompson isn't just salary management, it's a signal that Dallas is shifting its identity. Gafford is a reliable piece but less valuable than Lively or Washington long-term. Thompson's shooting is crucial, but the Mavs might be ready to risk losing him to embrace a younger core, with a different style. Meanwhile, Boston offloading Holiday clears a massive $33 million cap hit and creates space. But the question is, what are they really preparing for? Holiday might not be the flashiest player, but he's a critical cog for Boston's championship window. Trading him to Dallas for role players and a distant draft pick could look smart on paper, but will it backfire? What if this move undermines their defensive identity or fractures team chemistry just as the Celtics try to chase another title?